Not all of Route 66 is glamorous and filled with neon and retro cafes. On some parts of the old Mother Road, its glory years are so far behind it, they seem like they may never come again. We're back in the little ghost town of Cuervo, New Mexico, on the eastern half of the original Route 66's run through the state. And although you wouldn't know it, to look at it now, this was once a thriving community and a popular stop along Route 66. Later, the Interstate came and blazed a trail right through the middle of the town. And yet, seemingly nothing remains of Cuervo's population. Nothing but old abandoned homes. Let's not gloss over that old abandoned outhouse right there with those original water tanks. Cuervo was established when a railroad siding was built here. The Chicago, Rock Island, and Gulf Railroad, just across the freeway in 1902. And in fact, the train stopped running here in 1910. And so the town had a first death before 1926, when Route 66 once again brought travelers to its doorstep. Then the town boomed, or as much as it ever would boom, to a population of around 150 people right around 1950 or so, and then seemingly it just kept on declining after that. Right here is an old Catholic church built around 1915. There's no service today, but look at that, the bell rope is still here. Let me just, nothing. You see, things were pretty makeshift out here in the early days. Someone built a house or some little small business out of an old railroad car, it looks like. There's old abandoned cars everywhere, old stone buildings, definitely dating back to the early railroad and ranching period. It's weird to think about this place in 1902, 1910, 1915, which seems relatively modern, right? Just 10 years before Route 66 came through. And yet it was still very much the Old West out here at that point. Surprisingly out here, there is still quite a remnant, at least, of the old grid. There are many, many structures still standing. A lot of little old homes. What really strikes me is that you can see these trees that were planted out here, old fruit trees that didn't make it with watering, and also some cacti that looked like they were planted as sort of like part of people's gardens. You see these very carefully hand-laid rock walls and old steps. So clearly the people that lived out here were taking pride in their community. And yet, as far as I can tell, walking around today, there's nobody out here but ghosts. Actually, as I've gotten farther out of town, I can see some homes in the very back of town with modern roofs on them. So clearly somebody's living out here in Cuervo. And then look at this right here. This also has a more modern metal roof on it. It's been somewhat restored. I believe this is the old Cuervo schoolhouse. You can still barely read District Number 6 on the stone above the door. Unless I'm totally remembering this name wrong, I believe that the roof was put on by someone who used to live here, a lady named Flora Page. So there have been some scattershot efforts over the years to preserve this place. Look at this, somebody's kicked the door in here. Oh wow, wait a minute. Gotta watch out for snakes and bees and spiders, but okay. Looks like someone's made some efforts to brace this place up. An old stove in here. It's actually much larger than I was expecting it to be inside the old schoolhouse. The problem with things like this is if it was in a small town in the middle of nowhere, if it was that kind of ghost town, you know, it'd be pretty well preserved. Being right off the interstate, that means it's much more accessible to vandals and hooligans. And with no one, or at least very few people living anywhere near here, it's hard to keep an eye on everything, right? Anyway, this is only the upper half of the town, down by the railroad tracks. And down along the path of old Route 66, there's even more. The stuff over there is much more the familiar type of Route 66 ghost town stuff. Because this is where you get all your old abandoned gas stations and filling stations. Keep in mind, there would have been a lot more right where the freeway is now sitting, right across the way, but look at this. You got somebody's abandoned car out here, an old store closed up. Then look at that one right there. You can just barely read Cuervo, New Mexico over there. Looks like it might say groceries on top of that building. Then look at the smaller business to the right, or the addition on there. That is very short. It's like your classic Old West general store or something like that. A lot of these were old roadside cafes, gas stations. You can see this is full of old lumber and old junk in here. Man, this is pretty wild. This place looks like it was half in the act of being bulldozed, because there's a bulldozer right in front of this clearly very old gas station. If I'm remembering correctly, at one point this was a Texaco. The wild part is in the old abandoned and roofless garage portion, you can see a car is actually up on one of the old lifts. And out in front, not only do you have that very cool, probably lit up arrow from back in the day, but the sign bracket for the old Texaco. There's an old billboard frame over here, and you can see they had to board up the windows. A couple of chairs out on the porch. Wonder if people sat on those chairs. Looking at the empty highway. Hey, UPS, man, they really do deliver everywhere. Looking out at the empty highway and the interstate rolling by and going, nobody stops here anymore. There's my son London's in the car, keeping up with me as I walk up the road here in Old Cuervo. Check this out. The sign is long gone from this gas station down here, but on the base of the sign pole, can you read that right there? It's painted Bell Gas. So I wonder if that was a brand of gas that was sold here. I've never heard of Bell Gas. You can see this, look at the hooks for the pumps or for hoses. And interestingly, up here in ghost lettering, it says U.S. Post Office. So clearly at one point, this was Cuervo's post office, and the old counter is still intact in here. Man, it's wild. There are still people living in the area who can remember when this was a viable business. You can see the old sink and kitchen back there. It makes me wonder if they had a little cafe or if the owner and proprietor lived in this place. There's an old case back there, maybe an old freezer. And like I was saying, look at the old counter. It's got display windows still miraculously intact in there. You have shelving for maybe old oil cans and stuff. The refuse of bygone times. Crazy. And right out and back are the railroad tracks, which was the first reason Cuervo ever existed. Oh, look at this on the wall. Can you read that? Fresh candy, it says right there. Oh man. Not anymore, guys, not anymore. I wanted to stop here in Cuervo, New Mexico at the beginning of this adventure because we are headed eastwards to Tucumcari, one of the greatest Route 66 towns ever, with surviving neon signs, old motels. And it's a small town, but you've got a grocery store, you've got gas stations. Open ones, I mean, but I just wanted to show the contrast here with many of the other old Route 66 towns that didn't fare so well. And this isn't the only one on this stretch of road between Santa Rosa, New Mexico, where we were in our last episode, Tucumcari, New Mexico, where tonight we're gonna stay in one of the most, maybe the most legendary motels on the old route. We keep blazing a trail along the railroad tracks and along old Route 66. Eventually, you come up to another ghost town called Newkirk, New Mexico. Look at this, this is just teasing us now. Tucumcari tonight! That's the old slogan because they had so many hotel rooms on the old Mother Road. A veritable oasis in the desert. It's only about 10 minutes or so up the frontage road, up the path of old Route 66, and I much prefer driving on this, I must say, than on the interstate right next door. I mean, sure, this way's a little slower, but we're getting the authentic experience, London. Authentic tree! Well, I say it's a little bit slower, but it actually only took us 10 minutes of driving down the old path to reach the outskirts of Newkirk. And although Newkirk is a bit ghosty, to my surprise, it's not full ghosty like Cuervo, because indeed, as soon as you pull into town, you see an active open gas station and post office combination, literally just called Route US 66 out here. It even says Route 66 gas on the side of the pumps. And not only is it using an obviously older historic building, but look at that, it's harkening back to the old days with the whole gas station, post office combo. Still going strong. Dude, that is awesome. I was not expecting homemade burritos and Route 66 gas to be here. Oh my gosh. There's even some souvenirs. I'm getting that. This is kind of amazing. It's like the whole grocery store in here. It's your one-stop shop. Ooh, I could use some string cheese. And that's awesome because the guy inside, who I assume is the mayor and the sheriff and the postmaster general, was super friendly. We shared a laugh about needing eyeglasses in your old age for reading. Ha ha ha! Look at this. I got my Newkirk, New Mexico hat. And this is the first one of these I've seen actually on this part of the road. They do have an older historic Route 66 sign out here on the old path of the Mother Road, and now you can see some of that ghostiness off to the right. As we travel farther down that path, now you can see some of that ghostiness that I was talking about. You see this beautiful old stone building that dates from way back in the day. Was not only a filling station, but if I'm remembering my history right, this was also a post office at one point, meaning it's kind of a Newkirk historical tradition to have your post office combined with your gas station. Kind of hard to get to now because the weeds have grown up so much around here. Newkirk has many more local residents than Cuervo does at this time. So everything's in much better shape and much less vandalized. And as you can see, it is all beginning to sort of fade from history. Bit by bit of the roof goes away, then more and more water gets in, the stone collapses. People will pick off the old signs. Look at that old beer sign right there. The champagne of bottled beer. The original Route 66 stretches nearly 2,500 miles from Chicago to Los Angeles. So as you can imagine, there are thousands and thousands of old buildings ready to fall down that need help, that need preservation, and not all of them are gonna get it. Some of them might not even make it past this 100th anniversary year, like Wilkerson's over here. It's a place that I believe didn't even shut down until the 70s or the 80s. And I believe Dwayne Wilkerson, the son of the original owner, just recently passed away. So up until very, very recently, we've actually had surviving members of the family who lived and worked out here. I don't know if you can see that, but there are a whole bunch of bees going in and out of that entrance right there. I wanted to get up close to show you the surviving counter while we could still get under this cool gull wing portion, or maybe it just looks like that because the roof is collapsing, where the old gas pumps used to be, the old island here. But especially out west, I don't mess with bees because they could be Africanized killer bees. So we'll give them a healthy amount of space. But yeah, look at that. I mean, it's a beautiful ruin aesthetically. It's like, wow, what a wonderful ruin. But you can see it's built out of adobe bricks that are starting to decay with every succeeding rain. A lot of the old plaster from the side of the building and concrete is falling off. There's basically no longer a roof. Pieces of it are just flaking off everywhere. It won't be much longer that there's any Wilkersons left on the side of old Route 66. And you can imagine back in the day, there would be constant traffic here on this road, just flowing continuously in front of the store, people stopping in from all over, having conversations like I just had. Where you from? Where you headed? Watch out for the killer bees. You seem to be leaving me alone for the moment. You can see an old supply closet and or old restroom there. Probably looks more like a supply closet. And look at this little outbuilding right here. It's got an old ice machine in it, and apparently behind it we have an old abandoned motor court. It's very hard. The weeds are kind of high up out here in Newkirk right now. Oh yeah, look at that. See, none of the books I have about old Route 66 in this area have got anything about this little motor court. I'm just hoping and praying there's no rattlesnakes out here as I try to get a little closer. As you can see here, this was once pretty thickly populated with Route 66 businesses, and yeah, you would have had your little hotel room right in there, and then of course your carport. You could have parked 2 cars in there, one for each room, and then on and on and on. It didn't take much. A lot of these mom and pop businesses sprang up across the Southwest in these little former ranching and railroad towns. I love the little pressed tin kind of fake Spanish tile up there to give it a little class, right? Just kind of a little something. Someone clearly used this building for storage because there's a lot of old couches and mattresses in here, but I can also see pieces of old beds, old toilets, and probably a lot of the stuff that came out of the original little motor court here, as well as some of the gas stations. I can see old furniture and ashtrays. Amazing. It'd be amazing if somebody cleaned this place up or at least shored it up. See, here's the problem, right? Look at that old adding machine down on the ground. That was probably used in one of the gas stations or the hotels here. Here's the problem, right? Probably nobody could restore this and turn this into a viable business and get people off the highway. I mean, that's why it went out of business in the first place. As popular as it is to buy a Route 66 sign from Hobby Lobby and stick it up on your wall, very few people actually travel the Mother Road, and very, very few people even get off on a few of the old little pieces like this. So no private owner is gonna put their fortune into shoring that up. A town like Newkirk doesn't have the resources to fix it up at taxpayer expense. What taxpayers, right? National park grants and things like that. They're not gonna come and rescue a building like this because it's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't get a lot of traffic and visitors. And yet many of us old highway travelers come down the old Mother Road specifically so we can see ruins and old buildings like this, the paths less traveled. And now it always feels like a race against time before these things disappear. Oh, man, it almost feels a little bit depressing when you think of it like that, but don't worry. The next place we're going is the polar opposite, a town that has been kicking and kicking for generations to keep their Route 66 traffic and spirit alive. We're gonna tip our hat to old Newkirk here, and then keep heading on down the highway to Tucumcari. Oh man, all along this route, you just see ruins of old trading posts and Filling stations. The problem with it isn't just that they're decaying, it's that nobody's building any new 1930s gas stations and cafes out here to decay for the visitor in the next 100 years. That's the part that makes me sad, and that is the part that makes me want to tell you, get your kids in the car and get out on the mother road while you can, while we still have things like that to look at. I mean, after all, people will go into debt to take their family on a vacation to Disney World, and this is 10 times as epic. It's gonna make 10 times the memories. And as much as I love Disney World, it's honestly gonna cost you probably a lot less. All right, nobody came here for a sermon. Let's get on the road to Tucumcari and the most famous motel of them all. Of course, London, we actually only got one bed tonight, so you and me are gonna have to flip a coin for it. Actually, dude, this part of the road is so awesome. I'm gonna switch with London so that London can drive some old school Route 66. Get out at Newkirk off the freaking interstate, dude, and do the rest of the drive to Tucumcari on the old road. It's twisty and turny and a heck of a lot of fun. It's so funny because this frontage road every once in a while runs out of old Route 66 and has to switch sides to another frontage road, and London just encountered his first underpass on Route 66. You can see some road warriors have come out here and labeled it so you know you're still in the right spot, which is pretty cool. I must say, I wish I could add to the vandalism, but I don't have any spray paint on me. Oh well. Yeah, here we go. This is what I'm talking about, man. This is why you gotta come out on the route, and there's so many different paths to take. It's sort of choose your own adventure, like I always say. You just have the adventure of a lifetime. Memories forever. Well, it took a while, but eventually we ran out of old Route 66, got dumped on the freeway, and made it all the way out here to Tucumcari, where Route 66 was so wide and so busy, it had basically evolved into freeway-like proportions before being abandoned and replaced by an actual freeway, Interstate 40. All along the approach to town, there used to be all kinds of hotels and motels and truck stops that have now burned down or shut down or closed down. But up ahead in the core of old Tucumcari, Route 66 proudly lives on, and there is a lot to see, a lot we're gonna see over the next couple of days in this town. But for right now, we're finally headed to our motel. All right, and this is it. At long last, we have reached our destination, the most iconic motel on Route 66, the original 1939 Blue Swallow Court. One of the most original, the most intact old motor courts from the early days of the route, but more importantly, it's the one with that iconic, famous neon sign that's impressive by day, but just wait till the sun goes down. Construction started on this place in 1939. By 1941, it was open with a little cafe on the site. It did a booming business all through the 40s, including the war years when GIs were traveling up and down the highway. And in 1958, it was purchased by a local businessman, Floyd Redmond, as an engagement or a wedding present for his new wife, Lillian, who had actually been an employee here under the previous owner, and previous to that had some hospitality experience as one of the famous Harvey girls. So she knew a thing or two about the motel and hotel business. She knew a thing or two about hospitality, about charm, about making someplace homey. And she made the Blue Swallow the work of her life. And after her husband Floyd passed away in the 1970s, even moved onto the property full-time, running the Blue Swallow with care and attention to detail, and keeping it perfectly locked in time for the next 40 years, until she herself finally sold the property in her great old age, and as these things often happen, passed away shortly thereafter. From memory, I think the Blue Swallow since then has had 4 sets of owners who have all understood the assignment and been very committed to keeping the property locked in time and consistent with Lillian's vision, including keeping this original coral paint color, which, by the way, look at some of these old school details, right? Look at the clamshell there in the plastering. This place never sold out like other motor court motels. It never filled in the garages and doubled the amount of rooms they had. It always stayed small, cozy, consistent, and covered in neon and vintage signs, and even some old original artwork by legendary Route 66 artist Bob Waldmeyer, if you know who that is. Look at this, vintage bikes on the property, vintage cars as you saw outside. Everywhere you look, you will see antiques, antique metal chairs and tables, the old original antique interior neon lit Art Deco fountain. And inside the rooms, the story gets even crazier because a lot of the rooms even have their old original furniture. That is why this property was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. That is why people always sought it out. Even before Route 66 retro tourism became a thing, people wanted to stay in an American original. They wanted to meet Lillian and hear the old stories. And of course, they wanted to photograph that epic neon sign. And that neon sign in this front office right here, they are the reason that I said this is probably the most famous, most iconic motel on Route 66. Because if there's a Route 66 calendar, this thing is in it, if not on the cover. Same thing with every Route 66 book, pamphlet, postcard. People come from all over the world just to see that neon sign. Now, the current owners of the Blue Swallow, Bob and Don Federico, like the previous owners, are hopelessly devoted to the Blue Swallow. And actually, I kind of think they take it up a notch, because not only are they devoted to this place and keeping all the original qualities intact, because if you come inside of here and you get a room at the Blue Swallow, they're going to tell you all about Lillian and all about how she preserved the place. And look at that! Here they are. Do you like Bob or do you like Robert, Federico?
I like Robert.
Okay, so Robert. We'll keep it to Robert and Don. And you guys have owned this place since 2020, and it's the most amazing thing. You've kept it going perfectly and preserved it. And you guys have almost like a little car story, because you just told me you came from Chicago and then moved to Tucumcari. So you guys are like the real life Lightning McQueen and Sally that moved out here and like slowed down a little bit.
We'll take that. We started on the route, and this is where we ran out of gas.
Yeah, I love that. You guys have done such a great job, and the merch game is so strong. Now, there was the original cafe. Was it in here, in this building, in the lobby?
It was these back here.
Oh, so the back rooms.
Yeah, my kitchen and bedroom were the cafe and kitchen.
When Lillian's husband died, that's when she probably moved in here full time.
No, they changed it beforehand.
Oh, really?
By 1959, it was changed.
So did she live in here before that too?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She was here, and then they added in 1959, the kitchen was done. They added the third part, the cinder block part in the back.
Wow.
So this is you can see this original structure here is 1939.
Okay.
It was a standalone structure. This was an outdoor door.
Oh,
And
wow.
by 1949, they added the kitchen and the cafe. And then by 59, you can see the cinder block add-on in the back.
And so and then they just absorbed the cafe into their own house.
So I have a mid-decades contemporary.
That's so cool.
Not mid-century, mid-decade.
And what year was the big neon sign and they turned it into Blue Swallow Motel,
so
quote
the original
unquote?
sign, here, you can see it in 1953.
Yeah.
Well, Lillian was gifted the hotel in 54, 55 by her husband when she, on their wedding night. She had it installed by 54, 55.
Okay, so that was one of her decisions. Like,
Yes,
hey, we're gonna need a bigger, she knew what she was doing.
I think her Harvey Girl experience taught her that.
Yeah, she was a boss lady.
Yes, be part of the marketing. I think she was just leaving Arizona, not realizing she was probably going to spend the rest of her life here in Tucumcari.
Is that where she worked? She worked at the La Posada?
Yes, that's where she was trained as a Harvey Girl.
Really?
Yeah. That's why I believe she ran the Blue Swallow so efficiently.
So she wasn't just used to tourism, she was used to Route 66 tourism, because that's sitting right on Route 66 too. Yeah, that's amazing.
In culture and culinary
and the Fred Harvey company knew how to pick him, so what's his face up here? He was in luck. See what I'm saying? They're hopelessly devoted to this place, to its story, to its legacy. That alone would make it worth staying here, but this, look at that as the sun finally goes down below the horizon. The most epic neon sign on Route 66 is lighting up, and it is just going to get brighter and brighter from here. Now, it is the 100th anniversary year of Route 66, and the Blue Swallow Motel is popular every year, even on the less than busy years. This place only has its original 12 units, and so on weekends and the busy part of the tourist season, it books up solid. And of course, it books up super solid on a centennial year of the highway. Luckily, the other night when London and I were in Albuquerque, very miserable in a very gross, big brand name hotel that was disgusting, I was sitting there fantasizing about being in Tucumcari, being back at the Blue Swallow Motel, and I noticed they had a random late cancellation, one room available, and I snagged it and started screaming, freaked the boy out. And lo, my friends, rather than just being here to look at the beautiful neon sign, we're actually gonna be able to look at it all night long, because we booked ourselves a room at the Blue Swallow, And not just any room, but room number 1, the closest one to Route 66 and the only one where you can sit on your front doorstep. Wait for it, even sit down on the edge of your bed and stare out directly at that. Now, it wasn't just the outside of the property that they've kept original. Tell me what modern hotel in 2026 has furnishings or blankets or anything like this. From the old original light fixtures and original glass to the original hardware in the bathroom. Look at that sink and that ancient toilet right there, not to mention the old school shower. And even the furniture in here, which is very important. I'll tell you about that in a second. This is not your average anonymous, random, sanitized hotel. This is cozy, comfy, old school, 1940s, 50s, grandma style, I guess you could say. But this is the way a lot of these mom and pop businesses would have looked back in the day, especially a business owned by somebody like Lillian. It would have been very personalized. Each room would have been a little bit different. Okay, and I promised I was going to tell you about the furniture. This furniture right here is original to the Blue Swallow, both the desk and chair and this little bedside table right here. All 3 of those pieces were delivered in 1940 to the Blue Swallow as they were building this place out. And we know that because Robert just showed us that underneath the furniture, they still have the original delivery tags with the original date. Now that is commitment right there to keeping this place, true to its original spirit and literally true to its original furniture. Obviously, the mattresses have been upgraded. The towels and such like have been upgraded. Everything is nice and clean, nice clean sheets and laundry. And the owners live on the premises themselves, and so that means that they are taking care of this place every single day, right? They're not gonna let it slouch. They are as invested in this place as you could possibly ever be. I've never stayed in room 1 before. I just love how every room has different little details, different little old vintage pieces, from the light switch to the glass to the old locks on the doors. Look at this epic freaking lamp. And according to our hosts, this is an original old telephone that's been here on the property for decades. In fact, I don't know how much of it I had the camera rolling for, but he gave us a very quick whirlwind nickel tour, especially for London's benefit, because he's never actually got to stay here before. It absolutely blew us away.
The desk and chair, the side table, those were delivered in 1940 by the Franciscan Furniture Company. The sink, the tile, the toilet, the shower, the windows, all original. 1950s lamps and a working telephone from 1941. Do I need to explain what a dial tone is?
No.
Okay. Wi-Fi on the desk, information in the drawer, including a map about town, and you adjust the AC with the small remote.
And now here's the conundrum, right? We've only got the one bed, boy. We've only got the one bed, and I'm not sharing. And yet, I want you to stay in the Blue Swallow and have the Blue Swallow experience, because I feel like if you're gonna be a Route 66er for life for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and your great-great-great-grandchildren, you've got to stay in the Blue Swallow at least one night in your life, and I've done it a few times already. So I'll give you the Blue Swallow, because spoiler alert, I actually have a backup room, because I knew we were only gonna be able to get the one bed, and I knew they weren't gonna have any other cancellations. I hoped for it, but I knew it was unlikely. And it's just walking distance away. But first, let's wait for the sun to go down and check out this freaking neon. Oh my gosh, I just laid down on the bed, and where you put your head on the pillow, you can see the freaking sign from laying on your bed. You dog, you lucky dog. And boy, what a sign. This is my view from standing in the doorway to the motel room. That is freaking epic. All right, we're gonna go get some groceries. We're gonna come back when the sign is fully lit up in the dark, and then I'll show you where I'm probably ending up sleeping. Real quick before any of that happens though, I wanna show you something that's sitting out here still behind the Blue Swallow. It's Beto the Burro and his more recent friend. I'm talking about the other burro. I don't know where this guy came from. I left Beto the Burro out here on my first day at the Blue Swallow. I picked him up in Oatman, Arizona on Route 66. I picked up the other one in the same place in 2024 when London and I were traveling the route together for the first time. Our first father and son Route 66 journey. Bonus points if you can remember what Beto, who's been repainted by the way, his friend is named, because I actually don't at the moment. You gotta leave it in the comments for me, I guess, because I'm totally blanking. All right, let the sun go down. Okay, nighttime it is, and those of you who have been following my adventures for a while probably saw this coming, but our other chosen hotel is none other than my favorite motel on the entire route. A place that feels like home every time. The freaking Roadrunner Lodge. It's mid-century style with modern comfort. I have been staying here since pretty early on in its story of recovery and restoration when the new owners bought it and started to fix it up, give it snazzy 60s rooms. And I've just watched it grow and grow and grow, literally, as they restore more and more hotel rooms. But this isn't a story about the Roadrunner. This is a story about the Blue Swallow today, which is where I think London is going to be spending the night. But we did get the Roadrunner, in case you were wondering. I get it every time somehow. We got a plainer room with 2 beds that we're going to share tomorrow, and then one of us will have today and one of us will have the other. I think London's a little worried about staying in the Blue Swallow. It's just so outside of his comfort zone. But I'm like, dude, you've got to. It's legendary, right? Everybody's got to stay in the Blue Swallow at least once. But of course, I'm a nice guy. If he really doesn't want to, I'll switch with him. So we'll see what happens. This is the first time I've actually stayed in the #1 wing. You can actually see London up there opening a box of donuts in room number 23. I've never slept upstairs that I can remember. Maybe it's happened, I don't know. And I've never had any rooms in this first wing of suites, which I like to call the owner's box because of course the owners have their apartment right upstairs in the front. Or the owner, I should say, because now it's just down to one. David Brenner, personal friend, or at least I like to think so. For all I know, when he sees me coming, he's like, oh no, this guy again? Nah, but I love the guy. This place is Randomland approved and highly recommended. Ooh, it's pretty nice up here. I enjoy this very much. And even though it's not technically a snazzy 60s room, it's one of the deluxe rooms, he did have free moon pies. They've got their own radio station here at the Roadrunner, so you can go full 60s. London's eating a Subway sandwich. We got all our supplies up here, and I've been drinking chocolate milk. I'm a naughty boy. Subway and chocolate milk. We know how to party. Ooh. Spooky. It's all dark now. Just walking down the street, walking back over to the Blue Swallow to check on London. He's gone back over there for a while. He's editing some of these episodes that you've probably already seen, hopefully already seen. Look at TP Curios over there, all lit up with neon. I just let loose on my own on the wild streets of Tucumcari at night. Ah, here we go. We're back, and look at that. Come on, dude. That is a beautiful sight. It's a sign. I mean, there's nothing quite like it. And part of it is like, there's some other epic neon on Route 66, but most of it is far higher above the ground. The fact that it's so down low and there's just so much of it and so many colors, that is epic. Let's not forget, the whole place is trimmed in neon with those beautiful neon bluebirds right above the carports, the old Blue Swallow Court sign back there. I mean, what a freaking place, dude. I'm kind of jealous of the fact that London can just open his blinds at night. He can go to bed looking at that thing blink. Every third blink is slower. Room service, hello. I bring you soda. You like soda? Soda at nighttime? Whoa! I went inside to check on him for 2 seconds. And look at that. The sign is off. I guess we got here just in time. Well, I guess it won't blink through his window all night then. I left him with all the supplies. There he is. See ya. You gonna be all right? Yes. Okay, this feels weird. Even though I know you're an adult, this is so weird. It's so strange, dude. Not that long ago, he was just a little kid. But I guess to my parents, it's the same story. Anyway, now it's quiet and everyone over here is sleeping. I think that's where our adventure ends. Tune in next time to see what little gift we leave the Blue Swallow. On this occasion, we got more Route 66 adventures ahead as we travel the Mother Road during the centennial year. Now, we've done our duty. It's time to hotel and sleep well. Make sure you grab a bottle of Randomland hot sauce at randomland.com if you want the best hot sauce in the world. I just delivered some to David at the Roadrunner for him to eat, not for him to sell. The only place you can get it on Route 66 so far is the Jackrabbit Motel out in Arizona. But we'll see what happens. All right, I don't want to repeat the whole spiel now, so I'll just show you the spiel from the last video. See you later. If you want to keep Randomland fueled up and on the go, please consider checking out our merch. We got hats, books, stickers, all kinds of stuff, including the best hot sauce in the universe at Randomland. And of course, the best way is to join our Patreon. But liking, subscribing, and sharing these videos with a friend, that's free, easy to do, and helps us out a whole lot. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching all the way to the very end. You guys are my heroes. You've done your duty. You can go home and sleep well. so that London can drive some old school Route 66.